Welcome to the 4th and 4 podcast, coaching leadership and lessons learned from football coaches in 35 minutes, fast-paced growth for your lift, run, or commute. I'm Donald Lawrence, and our guest today is Cody Glenn, who is currently the running back coach and head track coach at Cy-Fair High School. Cody is a former linebacker and running back at the Nebraska University. Nebraska, the N stands for knowledge. We all know that. Also played in a Super Bowl for the Colts. Welcome to the podcast, Coach.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate coming on. I appreciate being one of the first couple of guys you had on here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I had to get some of my guys in early because we're still kind of primitive. So, there's going to be some flaws, but, that's why I had to get my guys.
Yeah,
You'll be
absolutely.
big time one day, but right now you're still, you're slumming with me. So appreciate it. So let's get right to it, man. How'd you get into coaching? Coming out of the NFL, what were you doing? And then what went into coaching from there?
Man, it was kind of one of those things where um, I had such an influential coach when I was in high school that when I graduated, I always knew I wanted to coach high school football in Texas. And yeah, I made it to the NFL, but I knew no matter how much I made or whatever the case may have been, my dream job was actually to coach high school football in Texas because of the impact that my high school coach had on me.
I got you. That's awesome. So I guess you found meaning in the profession from your high school experience. And what do you find meaningful every day? Like, why do you keep coming back? Like, that was the initial surge, but what keeps you coming back?
Because there's another Cody Glenn out there that my high school coach name was Coach Tucker. I'm going to be Coach Tucker to another Cody Glenn out there. So that's what keeps me coming back. Like, I'm going to find that Cody Glenn that I'm going to make that kind of impact on. Because when you have an impact on a kid that changes his entire life and decides or makes him make a decision as far as what he wants to do with his life by the impact that you had on him and the relationship that you created with him, that's what keeps me coming back, every single day.
Okay, so describe to our listeners, who is the Cody Glenn you're describing? What kind of background are you coming from? What part of the state? What was your home life like, and how did athletics kind of shape and mold you?
Man, I came from a little small town called Rusk, Texas, down in East Texas. Man, we grew up. I mean, it was just me and my mom, and I had two brothers, no dad, nothing like that. So essentially, I mean, my coach became that for me. So just a little bit about my background. I grew up in, obviously, we live Rusk, Texas. Football was everything for me. I mean, my brothers was in prison. So it was just me and my mom, and I had to do everything I could to make her happy. So I found that through athletics. And so that was my outlet. That was everything for me. So then when I got my coach, Coach Tucker at the time, I mean, he became that father figure for me. And he showed me that there was things that I can use my athletic ability for to get to where I wanted to be. And so coming from that small town, using that athletic ability, using his guidance to help me get to where I was able to go to Nebraska and then on to play in the NFL for a couple of years. Like that wouldn't have been possible, without that upbringing and without him being a guidance in my life.
So can you tell me some of the early lessons that Coach Tucker taught you, some of the things that maybe you were slacking on, where he held you accountable for the first time, or some of the things he showed you that you were like, hey, there's another way. Like there's a developed world out there, and I want to be a part of it.
Man, one thing that, kind of always resonates with me is like he would always say, man, be the man you want to be tomorrow, today. You know, the man that you think you want to be, you have to be him today before you can be that man. And so every single day, I had this vision in my mind as far as who I wanted to be and where I wanted to go, and all the actions, everything that I did leading up to that was to be that man. And the person that I was trying to be was him. So how do I get, like that? And so doing that is like, do everything you're supposed to do. Go to class, take care of business, don't get in trouble, do your work, Be on time. If you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. Just little things like that that he kind of ingrained into me. Um, that kind of got me to where I'm at or where I was going.
That's awesome, man. Um, and I'm sure along the way he taught you some tools. So that leads me into my next thing. What have been some of the best tools that you have used to make a connection with your athletes outside the playing arena? Not a coaching point, something that's a coaching point for the game of life, for their academics, or how they act in the community or citizenship.
One of the main things was just understanding like to be yourself and like to be who you are. And he would always tell me like people are going to gravitate towards you just because of who you are. And if you are that person 24/7, 365, people are going to learn from you. People are going to gravitate towards you. People are going to want to be in your presence. And so some of the tools that I learned is like, don't be anybody else. Be who you are every single day. If you want to make an impact on somebody, make sure it's somebody that they're looking at somebody that's genuine, that cares, that's going to be that same person every single day. And so, in doing so, with the things that I learned from him and the things that I learned through my experiences, that I was able to make an impact because of I showed people who I was, what I was, and the things that I've been through, and just kind of showing them this is who I am, this is who you could be, and this is the way to get there.
Right. And I think part of that is being consistent, right? Like day in, day out, man. This isn't an act. This is who I am. And I became this through athletics. What is something that you know now as a coach, and you're still a relatively young coach because you had an NFL playing career. You're younger than I am. You started several years later than I did. What is something you know now that you wish you knew sooner?
Man, really, one of the main things when I first got into coaching is just understanding like playing and coaching is two different things. And you think you come in and like, oh man, I just played in the league, I just played college ball, man, I got this, I know all this. But in the big scheme of things, like it's not that simple. It's like doing something and teaching somebody how to do that are two different things. So that was the biggest thing, or the biggest obstacle that I faced coming into coaching was teaching young kids how to do something rather than just always showing them. Because I mean, it's going to get to a point in your career where, like, I can't get down in a running back stance and hit a bag and show them how to hit it. Like, man, my shoulder hurt right now. So, uh, taking that step from teaching kids how to do certain things rather than always just having to just show them because I didn't really know how to express to those kids how to do things that I wanted them to do.
Right. And I think a lot of athletes with your skill set and you got to the level you got to through hard work. Don't get that twisted. But you have a lot of ability and natural ability as well. And a lot of things that come natural to you is difficult for somebody to understand. I don't know why this kid can't get it. Because it was easy for you, right? It's the whole Michael Jordan. Why wasn't Michael Jordan a great head coach? And Michael Jordan worked his butt off. Let's not confuse anything. But not everybody's Michael Jordan, right? And it's hard to resonate to players when they struggle to understand your concepts and things like that. So I imagine that was difficult to pick up early in your coaching career. But not everybody's built like that, right? You have to find the best in every kid and get them to be their best. What is something you have read or listened to recently that has really impacted your leadership or changed your thought process on how you develop kids or how you operate within your staff?
Man, actually, I was discussing with one of our ADs here that I used to coach with, Coach Charles Amen, and you know Coach
I
Amen,
do.
and we was just discussing. Yeah, I think you know Coach Amen. Yeah, and I think so. I was talking to him about I wanted to kind of start put my name out there and start looking at potential head coaching jobs or coordinator jobs and stuff like that, and I just wanted to kind of get his advice and stuff. And man, he kind of hit me with something, just kind of said like if I were to ask you, if I would have you to tell me what is your philosophy? Like if I came to your program and asked you what's your philosophy, could you put that on paper? And that really hit me where, in your mind you have all these things and you have all these ideas and like if somebody asks you a question, you know it in your mind, but can you put that on paper? And so after talking to him, I was like, okay, that's a good point. So I started trying to put that on paper and I was finally able to do that. And that really just kind of, opened up some things to me as far as if I get a head job and if I become a head coach, what do I want that program to look like? How am I going to lead these guys? How am I going to lead these grown men and these kids? And what's our philosophy going to be? What are our values going to be? And that was just something to kind of get me thinking about that process.
One thing that's interesting about Coach Ament as a leader is he has an ingenious way of giving advice through questioning, right? You ask him and he doesn't tell you. He asks you a follow-up question that kind of leads you to your own conclusion. And I think that's his gift. And I think that's why he's in the position that he's in. I don't think he's
Absolutely.
one time told me what to do. He's just asked me
Yeah.
questions about, what would be the ramifications of this? Do you think that's a positive decision? How's that going to impact your family? Right? That's his gift. And he kind of brings you full circle back into what you were asking him to the beginning, but you figure it out. That's a
Yeah.
skill. That's a skill. Um,
Exactly.
what is something you do in your position to positively impact your staff or players?
But I would say just lead by example. Like I talk to kids and I build relationships with kids and staff and coworkers and stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm kind of one of those guys that lead by example. I mean, I pride myself on working hard. You know, when I'm there, man, I try to work harder than anybody there because I know with the success that I've had, where I've been able to go, it's all from hard work, outworking people. Because I mean, even NFL, college, whatever, I wasn't the most gifted athlete, but I can tell you comfortably that nobody outworked me. Nobody was going to outwork me because that's something that I could control. And so whenever I'm trying to impact kids, and I don't care what the talent level, because coaching high school football, I mean, you got a 5 star and you got a 0 star, and you got to coach both of those kids the same because when that 5 star go down, that 0 star is going in, and you're going to expect the same thing. And so now coaching these kids and making sure they understand, like, I want the best that you got. The best that you have is, 10 carries for 40 yards. I need those 10 carries for 40 yards. If you my 5 star, I need 20 for 250 because that's the best you got. I need it every single time. So just, making sure those kids understand, like, I just want the best that you can give me. And whatever that is, I know what it is and I need it every single day.
That's interesting. So the first guest is a mutual friend of both of ours, Coach Strahan over at Pearland Dawson, and he said the exact same thing, right? Lead by example. And I don't think there's a better form of leadership. You know, kids are going to gravitate to what you do and what you're consistent with a lot more than what you say. If you're absent or you're absent minded and then you come in and go on a tirade, they're not going to respond. You're fake, right? That guy's not living what he's preaching, but they see it day in, day out, and every single day you're there before them. You hold them accountable to moving with a sense of urgency. I think that goes way, way more beyond throwing a fit, a tirade, yelling, screaming, getting animated, right? Like, because kids can see the BS, man. Like, this dude ain't living what he's saying.
Exactly. And saying that, I think that's, man, when you say that, that really kind of resonates with, when you want to build a program and when your assistant coaches are talking to kids and the message that they giving the kids, that should be the same message that has to be on the same
No
page.
doubt. Things that you think about, right? I think the head coach sets the tone for the staff. As the head
Yes.
coach, I'm not going to get outworked. I'm not going to let Cody Glenn come in here and get here earlier than me, be more prepared than me, hold people accountable more than me. And then that resonates to the assistants, right? So I think having a camaraderie, but a competitive camaraderie within the staff, as far as you hold me accountable, I'm going to hold you accountable, and let's get after it. That definitely resonates to the rest of the players.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What has been the most difficult struggle for you in your time coaching?
Man, really. So one of the things is, how we were growing up, and it's like everything's rah rah, and you just do what you got to do because nobody else is going to do it the way you're going to do it. But now, just understanding these kids these days, like kids are different, and we can't complain and do all this about it. Like, we got to be able to adjust, adapt, and to achieve a common goal. Because if it's 1940 or if it's 2023, we want to win. And whatever we got to do to get to that point, we got to get to that point. So if we got to, cut practice short or do whatever we got to do to get to that point, we're going to get to that point. So just understanding that aspect of it, if we got to dial things back, or we got to, dumb things down, or we got to, change times or whatever we got to do, we got to be able to adapt to the kids that we are dealing with today, the kids that we are coaching today, in order to achieve that common goal of winning. I mean, that's what we want to do. We want to win. And that's, been one of the biggest things is understanding, like, all right, well, everybody's not a rah-rah guy. Everybody's not like, oh, my leg is broke, but I'm going to hop out there on another leg and make sure I get the first down, So that's been one of the biggest things, just, coming from the way we were raised and the way that we played the game to how the game is today and how the kids are today, and adjusted to that to come to that common goal.
One of the things I think about with especially our freshmen and then our 8th graders and our 7th graders is your grandparents, my grandparents, at their age had started working and were getting prepared to get married at that age, 14,
Yeah.
15, right? Life was hitting them in the face. My grandfather was a product of the Great Depression in Iowa, like farming potatoes at 9, right? And then COVID hits our kids right when they're going from boys to young men. They start getting some hair under their armpit. Their voice starts changing. When you start getting competitive, right? Those competitive hormones, adrenaline starts kicking in, because I just noticed, hey, there's a girl over there I never noticed before, right? And all this stuff starts kicking in, and then boom, COVID hits. Sit on the couch. It's 72 degrees in here all day. You always got food in the fridge. The TV always turns on. The assignments aren't due on time. You can turn them in whenever and still get your grade. And so during those competitive years, for me, my most competitive years, like looking around at the kids around me, were really 7th and 8th grade for me, right? Like, that's when everybody kind of started changing, and who's gonna be the alpha around here? Once you're in 9th grade, you get kicked down because you got seniors and juniors. You're kind of back in your place. But 7th and 8th grade, that campus is yours, and let's compete, right? And so I think you hit on an outstanding point, like, getting these guys going, toughen them up, understanding that they don't understand, that they don't know. They don't know there's a whole nother gear and a whole nother level that they got to get to. And that once they get out of our school system, it's coming. The world's full of sharps, man.
Yeah.
Full of sharps. And you got to be ready to go. And so that's the biggest struggle that I've seen, especially, right now with our younger kids, is the world ain't 72 degrees, brother. There's not food in their fridge, and that TV is not turning on. Get your butt up. Let's go. No doubt, man. No doubt. That's I'm glad you kind of hit on that because that's been my biggest struggle. Because I'm a type A man. I'm a go. Let's go. Let's go. And I
Absolutely.
know not everybody's like that, and that's okay. That's okay. You can be a type B. Type Bs are awesome. They're creative. They often have the ability to sit back and problem solve better because they're not in a rush to get things
Mhm.
done. But at the same time, man, you got to have some resilience and a little sense of urgency when it's time to go.
Absolutely.
How
Absolutely.
do you define success in your football program?
Man, so like one of my things is, man, that I'm gonna be big on this for the rest of my life is effort. And when I talk about defining success, success for me is defined based on effort and the effort that you give every single day. If I go to your campus and I see a kid that's not touching the line, a kid that has zeros in classes, a kid that's, you got to be there at 11:11 and you get there at 11:12. Those are things that, effort can fix. So if you're not giving me effort, that tells me a lot about you. So when I look at success, and I go into a room, I go into the weight room, I go into to the classroom, or I'm out there on the field or on the track or whatever the case may be, I should be able to look out there and see if who's giving me effort, if these kids are giving me effort or not. And I've always preached effort. That's just one of my things. And I was just kind of trying to come up with something that, you know, uh, how can I make sure these kids understand effort? And, I kind of came up with something the other day. I was just, sitting here at the house and trying to think of something. And, it was like, when I think about effort. And so I kind of came up with this thing where it's like, you know, every day, we're going to fight for others and we're going to respect today. And, just kind of acronym for effort. And so every day you got to show up and you got to be unselfish in team sports. You got to fight for others because you fight for others. The common goal of winning is going to take care of itself. And then respect today. Respecting today, giving everything you got for today, is going to achieve those goals that you have for tomorrow. But if you disrespect today, the outcome for tomorrow is not going to come. The outcome that you want for tomorrow is not going to come if you disrespect today. And respecting the day is built on effort. And if you give that effort today, that's how you know tomorrow you're going to be successful. And that's one of my biggest things is that's what I'm going to live by. If you come to Site Fair where I'm at and you ask these kids, man, what Coach Glenn be talking about? Man, he always talking about effort. I don't know. He always talking about effort. He be making us do this and do this because we don't give effort. And that I'm never gonna, bow down to that. I'm always gonna preach that. I'm always gonna believe that because effort is the one thing that doesn't require talent. I don't care how good you are, how good you're not. If you're a 5 star, 0 star, you can give effort. And if you can give effort in life, in work, effort is you don't have any zeros. Effort is freaking touching the line. Effort is being there at 5:59 and not 6 o'clock. Those are things that you can control. You control your effort. So if you can give effort every single day, and if your program is built around effort, I guarantee you that's going to be a successful program in my eyes.
And that's the process, right? That's what they talk about. Everybody
Yeah.
gives Nick Saban this credit for the process. All he's talking about is give your very best on that day.
Yes.
And if you do that day after day after day, the success will come.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
What is it?
And that's why I'm so big on it.
No doubt, man. Live in the moment. Accomplish what you need to accomplish today. If you're constantly looking up at the summit of the mountain, right, you're not focused on all the rocks
Oh,
and everything that's right in front of you. You're just falling back down, man. Uh, what is a simple yet effective coaching point you use with your position group? So I want to get a little bit more football specific. You coach the running backs. What is something you tell the running backs in a 2, 3 word phrase, and they know exactly what you're talking about?
be who you are. So what I mean by that, when I tell them be who you are, man, this past year I had a little scat back 5'5", 150 soaking wet, but you couldn't touch him in a phone booth. one of the most electric players I've ever coached. But right now, he's going to be a junior. He was a sophomore. He's 6'2", 210, 4'4", like look like Adrian Peterson. You can't do what that 5'5" kid can do, and that 5'5" kid can't do what you can do. We gonna call the same play, but it's not gonna look the same because that 5'5" kid may make five guys miss and go 80. You may make one guy miss and go 20. That 20 is gonna be 80 in the fourth quarter for you. And so just getting those kids to understand you're not him and he's not you. So be who you are. And when I get those kids to understand that, they're like, okay, that makes sense, coach. So when the kids go and do this and do that, you're not expecting me to do that. No, I'm expecting you to be who you are. Okay, so I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get 7 yards on 1st and 10. Okay, 2nd and 7, let's go. You know what I mean? So that's kind of one of the things. Be who you are, and those kids understand that. It resonates with them, and it works.
So that kind of brings me to the next point. If someone were to describe your players in one word, what would it be?
Effort. They're gonna tell you effort.
So you can be who you are. Give me the best of who you are.
Exactly. Day in, day out, every play, every rep, every second, everything you do. Give me everything you got all day, every single day. And being who you are, giving me the effort that you give is going to allow my running backs and allow my players to be successful.
When you retire and you got a former player coming up and speaking on your behalf, what's the one word you would want them to use to describe the impact you had on their life?
He cared, just caring. Like, I know that I can call my coach right now. I don't care if I'm 19 or 39. He's going to be the same dude. If I'm struggling, if I need some advice, if I need some help, and he can help me, he is going to help me. And that's one of the things that I always want to be able to give kids is Coach Glenn is always present. He's always there, and he's always going to be willing to help me in any way that he can, whatever facet that is, whatever the case may be. He cares. He's willing to do whatever he can to help me to make sure I'm successful. No matter what I've been through, no matter what I've done, he has my back.
You got 3 questions left, and we're at 32 minutes. You want to knock out the 3 questions, or are you ready to go to the last question? You want to extend it? I'm good with it.
Yeah, let's knock out those. Yeah, let's knock.
Yeah, this is rolling.
Baby.
All right, what has
Yes,
been
sir.
the most gratifying moment in your coaching career?
Man, just really recently, and this has happened a couple of times, but when you coaching high school kids and kids that has the opportunity to go play college football, and you tell them like, man, it's gonna be different in college. They're gonna expect you to do this. They're gonna expect you to do that. They're gonna expect you, like when you get to college and you're in the summertime and you're not touching line, you're not finishing, and you costing these guys to run more. It's not gonna be the coaches that get on you. It's gonna be your teammates that get on you, and you're not gonna want that. And they like, oh, coach, blah 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 blah. And then when they come back and they're like, man, coach, you was right. Man, it's hard. Man, those guys get on you. Like, man, it's a full-time job. Man, we got to do this and we got to do that. Like, I'm like, yeah, I told you, I'm not just paying lip service. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just making sure like you are prepared for that. So for those kids to come back and just kind of like, man, coach, you was right, man. It is, but man, I so appreciate it because like when I saw those things happening, I was like, man, Coach Glenn was right. I said, yeah, I'm not gonna steer you wrong. So it's always gratifying to see those kids come back and just kind of, see some of those things that, we've been trying to preach to them for so long. Now they finally understanding it.
What is something you incorporate in your program to develop your athletes beyond the game? And you've hit on a lot of character development and all that stuff, but is there something else, community service-wise, academic-wise, that you do?
Man, and as kind of as cliche as it sounds like, academics is number one. And, within, being at Site Fair and CFISD, we have these watch lists and we have all these different ways to monitor these kids' grades because you probably hadn't had many kids that had really good grades, didn't have any zeros, that were talented, that were ever really any issues. Like when you got kids that take care of their business in the classroom, now you know they're going to take care of their business on the football field. Now you get a kid that's really talented, that's doing those things. I mean, that's a recipe for success. And now, if that guy's your leader, that guy's your captain, man, that shows a lot, and that shows a lot about your team. If you got a guy that's your captain, that's taking care of his business in the classroom, he has no zeros, he's doing well, he's not a problem in the classroom. You don't get any emails from teachers about his behavior or anything like that. That's how I would say we define success in your leaders, in your captains on the football team. And then that just carries over to, the rest of your program.
Yeah, I think there's definitely an aspect of being competitive in athletics and then being competitive in the classroom, especially on things you don't
Absolutely.
like. You might not be a math guy, but I'm going
Yes.
to embrace that. I suck at math. And you know what? I'm going to go into this class knowing I suck at math and try to figure it out. I'm going to sweet talk the teacher. I'm going to give her a wink, a
Yes.
nod, whatever I got to do. Be there on time, be there
Yes.
first, tell the rest of the class to shut up when she's trying to talk. I'm going to do whatever I got to do to make sure I get an A in this math class. Yeah, I think it's,
Exactly. If I got to be that teacher's pet, I'm gonna
man,
be that
no
teacher's
doubt.
pet.
Compete. Never stop competing.
Absolutely.
What
Absolutely.
is advice you have for coaches?
Say that again. I'm sorry. I
What
missed it.
is
What kind of advice?
marital advice you have for some young coaches? Some coaches that are just getting started, just getting married.
Man, that pretty girl you met in the bar is probably not the girl you want to marry. Like,
Let's go.
yes, yeah, you met in the bar, leave in the bar. But like, if whoever you marry in this coaching profession, she better understand what that coaching life is like. And I was fortunate enough to marry a coach, So, but you have to make sure they understand, like, man, it's football season. You working 7 days a week. And a CFISD, you might have a Saturday off because you play on a Thursday. But in any other given scenario, they gotta understand you're gonna be working 7 days a week. If y'all got kids, sorry, baby. I mean, you got the kids on Sunday from 9 to 5 o'clock in the evening. Even though like that's a Sunday we're supposed to be off, but hey, we working. We trying to get ready for the next game. So they have to understand the lifestyle of being a coach's wife.
No doubt, man. All right. 4th and 4. There are 2 minutes left. You have no timeouts. Down 5 on the 50. Describe your mindset to the listeners, your thought process, your personnel, your formation, your play. You have to get a first down in order to keep the drive going and win the game. What are you doing? 4th and 4.
Hey man, we're in 11 personnel. I got a stud tight end. I got a stud tight end that can flex. He can have his hand in the ground. So, I mean, we're gonna go tight end double. So, in our formation, we call it right deuce. So we're gonna go right deuce. So you got a tight end on the right. You got a quarterback in the shotgun. You got your running back right. You got a slot on the left. We're gonna motion that slot over to that tight end side. And now we're gonna rub right off of that Z receiver that's coming on a short slant. We're gonna rub right off of him up to 5. Make sure we get the first down. We're gonna catch the ball. We're gonna get out of bounds. We got a first down.
Okay. Are you
Ball
gonna
back in on the
sprint your
line hash.
quarterback? Are you gonna roll him out that way, or are you just gonna catch and throw?
Oh, we're gonna catch him. We're gonna catch him
Okay.
through. So we're gonna snap the ball as soon as he get right 2 yards outside of that tight end. That outside receiver is gonna come a quick slant, bam, give it to him right there on the sideline, first down, get out of
Man,
bounds.
I'm glad you said that because Coach Strahan's over here talking about he's running 4 verticals and we're going to score a touchdown and all this stuff, man. I'm like, man, dude, what are you doing? You got to get a first down, man.
exactly. We got 2 minutes left. It's our
But
first
to
down.
his defense, I
It's
mean, you have
157
to
left.
score anyway. You got to score a touchdown anyway.
Yeah,
So I mean, you might as
yeah.
well take your shot
Right.
then. So, man, that was a good answer and a good compliment
So,
to Coach Strahan. So awesome stuff. Tell the listeners how to find you on social media. What's your Twitter handle?
man, my Twitter handle is going to be at TXHusker3452. Instagram is at TXHusker. With our Instagram or our Twitter at my high school that I'm at, Site Fair High School, is just at BFND Football. That's where you can find us. That's where we have most of our content at. Our track, we at Site Fair _ track. That's where we post a lot of our track videos and all of our football players at skill positions and our big guys do track. So you'll see all of our guys on there on our track, on my social media, on our football social media, and all the content that I put out as
All
well.
right. Thanks again, Coach. You can find me on Twitter at Coach Lawrence FB, as in football. You can also find me on YouTube at Fourth and Four Podcast, Spotify at Fourth and Four Podcast, and we should be coming to iTunes soon. You guys have a great evening. We'll see you next time.